So here we are on the last video reviewing all classic Sonic games. Well, actually second to last because I still have to review Sonic Superstars, but that'll be for the future. Right now, we're talking about a better game called Sonic Mania. Mania is beloved by a lot of people in the community actually, which is really surprising knowing the Sonic community. The person that loves this game the most in the community has to be me. It can't be anybody else. So if you ever hear a content creator or another Sonic fan somewhere on Twitter say they're a bigger fan than me, just know they're lying. They're not. Anyway, jokes aside, let's get into reviewing Sonic Mania. This video is going to be formatted just like my Sonic 3 video. First, we're going to be talking about the story, then the gameplay, and lastly, the level design. So let's just kick it off with the story. We start off with the prologue we got in the Sonic Mania manual. It tells us that Dr. Eggman noticed some unique wave signatures because of a dimensional breach that happened. And Dr. Eggman, realizing this could be a source of crazy powers, sends his elite robots called the Hard-Boiled Heavies to go retrieve it for him. And while Dr. Eggman was sending his Hard-Boiled Heavies, Sonic and Tails also picked up on this signal and they were going to arrive at the scene. But it seems like Sonic and Tails were a little late to the party and the Hard-Boiled Heavies already extracted the gemstone from the ground. And I know you don't need me to tell you this, but this gemstone is the Phantom Ruby. And after the Hard-Boiled Heavies extracted the Phantom Ruby from the ground, it seems like space-time suddenly started to warp around them and transported everybody to Green Hill Zone. So Sonic, Tails, Hard-Boiled Heavies, and then on top of that, Knuckles was caught in it as well, were all transported to Green Hill. And now it's up to Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles to stop Dr. Eggman. Our three heroes then blast through zones that they've seen before and some new ones to stop Dr. Eggman. And then when you finally get to the final zone, if you have all 7 Chaos Emeralds, you get a final boss fight that has Dr. Eggman and the Hard-Boiled Heavy King. After Sonic successfully beats both of them, he then gets transported into Sonic Forces. And that's all the story is for Sonic Mania. Now let's move on to the gameplay. When it comes to gameplay, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles stay true to the classic games with a couple new upgrades. And some of these upgrades are amazing. We have Sonic getting a new movement ability called the Drop Dash. And this move isn't just a game changer for classic Sonic at all, it's also a game changer for modern Sonic since he started using the move after this game came out. The Drop Dash just basically lets you do a spin dash instantly the second you land, and it's insane how busted this move is. Right here are side-by-side comparisons of my time, me using the Drop Dash and me not using it in Green Hill Zone Act 1. There's an 8-second difference whenever you use the Drop Dash, and that's a lot of time when you're trying to do these levels as fast as you can. But if you don't like the Drop Dash and you do not care about going through these levels as fast as you can, Sonic has different abilities you can use as well. He has the Super Peel Out from Sonic CD and the Instant Shield from Sonic 3. You can just change it in the game menu before you actually start up your game. And I know what you're thinking, why don't they just give Sonic all the abilities together? I guess they just didn't want Sonic to be really busted in this game, but who really knows. Now let's move on to Tails because I'm really excited to talk about him actually. Tails used to be really restricted in Sonic 3 to get a super form. Not only did you have to get all the Chaos Emeralds, you had to get all the Super Emeralds, and finally he can go Super. Sonic Mania threw that out the window because you don't need to get Super Emeralds at all here, so he just needs to get all 7 Chaos Emeralds and he can finally turn Super. But there is a downside to this as well, he loses the flickies that he used to have around him in Sonic 3. And that was the coolest part about Tails' super form in Sonic 3. It was so unique and different compared to Sonic and Knuckles. But besides that, Tails plays exactly how he does in Sonic 3. He can fly and swim and he gets alternate paths. And the same thing goes for Knuckles as well. He didn't really get much in this game. And I'm happy about that, because if you know me, I'm a Knuckles hater. I find his gameplay boring. They could have done better when it comes to Tails and Knuckles, but it seems like they wanted to keep him as OG as they can. With one new change to Tails only. But when it comes to Sonic, he gets it all. He is the star boy, he is the man himself. Like, what did you expect? Sonic not to get anything new in this game? Like, you gotta be delusional. The game is called Sonic Mania, and it's part of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, so just expect Sonic to always get something. Overall, the gameplay changes in Sonic Mania is amazing. It's always fun to just switch between the Super Peel Out, Drop Dash, and Insta Shield through my playthrough. It always makes the game feel fresh whenever I feel like I'm getting bored. I can always just change up how Sonic plays. Now here we are, finally in the level design area. The level design in Sonic Mania is actually amazing. Let me calm down, it's amazing sometimes and sometimes it's not. There are some levels, no matter how much fun I try to have in, they are boring. But it's not a lot of zones I'm kinda icky with, it's mainly 2 zones. First one being Mirage Saloon, and I bet you already know why, and the second zone being Oil Ocean Zone. I really don't like that one. I wanna start off with Mirage Saloon because that zone is like so boring in Act 1 with Sonic and Tails. This is the first zone in any classic Sonic game to make me enjoy playing as Knuckles. He gets an entirely unique area to himself in Mirage Saloon, and it's actually cool as hell. Sonic and Tails though, they sit their butts on a plane for most of the Act 1. And Act 2 is amazing, but I have to get through Act 1 to get to Act 2, which just makes me not like it as much. Cause I don't like going through an entire area where I just sit on a plane not playing the game that much. Like, I didn't want to do an autopilot act before I got to Act 2, but you know, we got to deal with it. And when it comes to Oil Ocean Zone, I just find the zone not aesthetically pleasing to look at. I didn't like it in Sonic 2, I didn't like it in Sonic Mania, there's nothing different. I find it boring having to wait for like the little elevator things to lift you up sometimes, I just don't like that. And then when we get to Act 2, it's more like we're getting launched inside ships, we're getting launched around the map, and that's kind of boring. Also, I hated the tint from the smoke in Act 2, it really bothered me when I was trying to play. Now let's talk about zones I do enjoy. I want to start with my favorite one in the entire game, Press Garden. Press Garden Act 1 and 2 is so much fun to play around in. When I look at the level, I think it's amazing. When I hear the OST, I think it's amazing. This is peak level. Well, that's aesthetically, now let's talk about the level design. The level design in Act 1 is actually really nice. I don't notice areas where I feel like I'm super slow at all, but there are certain sections like the elevators you have to go up in, and some parkour sections where you have to wait for the blocks to appear and you jump on them. There is this one section where you gain a lot of speed, and it's really cool because I love seeing Sonic go fast. That's the main thing about him. Now I want to talk about Act 2, my favorite act in any classic Sonic game. They utilize the ice gimmick really well in this level. There are so much parts where you just have to become an ice cube as Sonic just to break through a wall or something, and I really like that. And it's not like you can break a wall just by going slow at all, you have to actually gain speed for it. And I really enjoy that because it doesn't break away from the fast-paced gameplay that Sonic is known for. Even though you're like frozen and you think you're gonna be slow, you're gaining speed, a lot of it if you're going down a slope. If you break out of the ice at the right time, you just keep the speed, bro, you keep going. Also, there are a lot of parts in this level where you could just launch yourself very high if you know where you're going, and it's amazing. Now let me stop shilling for this level, that's enough of that one. Let's talk about other zones. We have Green Hill Zone Act 1 and Act 2, really good zones. Chemical Plant Zone Act 1, Act 2, really good zones as well. Unless we're talking about that one section in Chemical Plant Zone Act 2, everybody hates that one, can't blame you. Next we have Studiopolis Zone Act 1 and Act 2, really good zones, I actually love them. Act 2 being my favorite part of it actually. Flying Battery Act 1 and Act 2 is next, and I feel like they're really good zones, but there's certain sections that kind of push me away from them. Then we have Stardust Speedway Act 1 and Act 2, amazing zone. My favorite one being Act 2 because of how fast paced it is compared to Act 1. Next we have Hydro City or Hydrocity or whatever the hell you call it zone, and this is actually an amazing zone. And as I said in my Sonic 3 video, I still think this is like some of the best looking Sonic zones we have in the classic games. It's just so cool looking at the background whenever I'm going through the zone. Also, the entire underwater theme is amazing. I already talked about Mirage Saloon and Oil Ocean, so I'm going to skip those ones. Then we have Lava Reef Zone Act 1, Act 2, and I feel like Lava Reef Zone Act 1 is kind of not up to my taste. I just think there's too much slow parts in that act actually for me to enjoy it. And the same could be said for Act 2, but I actually enjoy how Act 2 likes, and there are some parts in Act 2 where I actually enjoy going through. I cannot say the same for Act 1 though. And then we have Metallic Madness Zone Act 1 and Act 2. I really love both of these zones. The gimmicks they both have, Act 1 and Act 2, is amazing. I don't think there's an area in this entire zone where I feel bored just going through it, or like there's some parts where I just don't enjoy at all. I enjoy every single part of this zone. Next we have Titanic Monarch. I think Act 1 is really fun to go through, and then we get to Act 2, which is kind of boring to go through. They have 4 little areas you have to go through before you can get to the final boss, and I just find like all of them are boring to do. I would have rather taken something like Act 1 again, than do what they did in Act 2 of Titanic Monarch. And that's all the zones we have, and as you can see, I really do enjoy most of the zones in this game. But that's maybe because I'm a shill for this game, but who knows. That's all I have for the level design, so let's go on to the rating. I'm gonna put this on the #1 spot for the classic Sonic tier list. I think this is the best game out of all the classic ones. And if you disagree with what I said anywhere in this video, just tell me why in the comments. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Anyway guys, that's been it for me, Dub. I'll see you next time when I post a review for an anime I rewatched. Peace.